Dear students, hello. Today we are discussing the second main function of management. Today we are speaking about organizing. I will share my presentation. Okay, so last time we spoke about planning, and the result of planning is strategy, and strategy is set of objectives. So it is some set of some results which must be attained within some period of time. And after having set the results, we have to delegate some activities to our subordinates to attain these objectives. And today we will speak about these very process. I'd like to begin our today's lecture with Adam Smith. Actually, Adam Smith, I would say he was not the first, but he was the first who explained this phenomenon. He analyzed the process of producing pins, and he discovered that if one person produces pins, so he can produce 100 pins per day, approximately. So if there are 4 persons, so per day they can produce 400 pins per day. But they produce 400 only in a situation if they work like separately. It means that everybody will perform all set of activities, all operations. But if they divide labor into 4 main operations, as it is explained at the right picture, they can produce 1,000 pins per day. So this is clear explanation of the positive effect of division of labor and how division of labor can increase the work output of a group of people. But generally there must be somebody who says, okay, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, and this person is a manager. So somebody must divide operations among the people, among the members of team. And today we will speak about this. Generally, then we say that our subordinate has to do something. We are using delegation. And delegation is the primary process by which managers establish formal relationships among people in the organization. And when using delegation, we are using such terms as authority and tasks. Tasks means some piece of activity, some operation, and authority, we will discuss it a little bit later in details, but I'd like to stress it in the beginning of my lecture, that authority is responsibility to use some resource for the task. So it means that If you delegate a task to your secretary to make a copy of some contract, you as a manager, you have to support her with a copier or with some money to buy this service out of your organization. This is authority. Generally, to attain any objective, some tasks must be performed. And with the help of this picture, which you can see at the right corner of our screen, I'd like to I wanted to stress that to attain some target, some objective, some set of tasks must be performed. And to organize it, you as a manager, you have to create the organizational structure. And according to this, organizing is the process of creating a structure for the organization that will enable its people to work together effectively toward its objectives. So, when you say that to your subordinates that you should do this, you have to do this, and this is your supervisor, and he or she will divide some tasks among you. You are using two types of dividing of labor, vertical and horizontal. And within organizing as a function of management, I'd like to stress that in Ukrainian language we have one word, organizatia, and in English we have two words, gerund, organizing, and noun, organization. So when we are speaking about some firm, some company, we should use organization. When we are speaking about process, when we are speaking about functional management, we should use gerund, organizing. But sometimes I hear from my peers that they are using word organizowania. But it sounds a little bit strange, but still okay. So if in English we have organization and organizing, in Ukrainian let it be організація та організування. So when we are using these functional management, we have to divide organization into subunits. It is horizontal division of labor, and we have to create some levels of management, and also we have to set authority relationships. So everybody in the organization must know what resources are available for him or for her. Okay, let's begin with terms. Delegation. Delegation is the assignment of task and authority to a recipient, to subordinate, who assumes responsibility for them. So, in other words, it means that you, as a manager, you have to say, okay, you should do this. Okay, and we will speak about it a little bit later. Sometimes maybe if speaking about, for example, me, it is better for me to say, not you should do this, not like you must do it, but okay, I'm kindly asking you to do it. But it depends on the way of leadership. We will discuss it a little bit later. Okay, and please look at the second part of this definition, who assumes responsibility for it. So your subordinates should say, okay, I will do it. And it's very important for you to understand that is if task is not delegated, the manager will do it personally. So if you forget to delegate some task, it will be your work, it will be your additional tasks. And why delegating is so important? Because from it goes from a very interesting definition of management provided by Ms. Follet. So management is getting work done for others. Therefore, without delegation, it couldn't be any managerial relationships in the organization. So you have to understand that every task must be delegated, and every manager has to understand how to delegate tasks effectively. We will speak about it at the end of my lecture about some pitfalls within delegating. The second important term is responsibility. Responsibility is an obligation to perform tasks and to account for their satisfactory completion. Okay, I will ask a question and I make pause and you will think, okay, a couple of seconds. Or you can put our video to pause and you can think. If a manager delegates some task, in this case, who is responsible for performing these very tasks? Okay, it is a mistake to say that manager delegates responsibility. Yes, he did say you should do this. Nevertheless, he or she is still responsible for these tasks. So a responsibility cannot be delegated. And you see, for example, if there is some accident at some enterprise and there is the annual meeting of shareholders and the director of this, the manager, the top manager of this company says, okay, it was some accident, some worker came drunk to his working place and he damaged his arm and we have to pay some penalty, etc. And you know that in this very situation, maybe he even didn't know this very worker. Nevertheless, he is responsible for building such a structure to prevent such accidents in future. Here another example about this is example from the book management. Head doctor is responsible if, for example, some patient dies because the nurse gave him the wrong type of blood. The head doctor is responsible for everything happens in his hospital. So, with the help of this picture, I tried to show you the relationships of responsibility. So, for example, this manager, he delegates some tasks to these two workers. Nevertheless, he is responsible for these tasks. And this manager, it is the middle management level manager, he is also responsible, and this top manager is also responsible for the meeting of shareholders. And to make it maybe a little bit more obvious, I decided to present you this very funny historical picture. It's about Harry Truman, the 33rd President of the United States, and at his desk you can see the phrase, "the buck stops here." What does it mean? It means it is like a little bit slang. Buck means like piece of plastic, like marker of the tone. Okay, so it means that it's not possible for you to say, okay, it's not my responsibility. Okay, you have to ask another person. If you are in the office of the President of the United States, you have to be responsible for everything connected with your task. So it is, as for me, it is the brilliant phrase, "the buck stops here." So you must have all the information and you are responsible for everything. And it's not possible for you to say, okay, it's not my obligation. So the top management level is responsible for everything in his organization. And you know, it's not possible to see somebody from middle management or even from lowest management level in the office of the President of the United States, only top management level. And that's why all top management, all managers at the top management level are so highly paid. It's because of the very big responsibility, very heavy weight of responsibility. The next term is authority. Authority is the limited right to use the organization's resources to perform some task. If you ask your secretary to print the contract, it means that you should support her with computer and with printer. And it is your authority to use it to perform your obligations. But authority says only about what she can do, what she is able to do with the equipment. But you know, sometimes this secretary, for example, she wants to print some jokes, or maybe some tips on cooking, and this is not possible in this very situation, because this equipment was supported to her only for performing these tasks, and that's why here is written limited right to use some resource. And usually authority is delegated to a position, not to a person. For example, now there are set times, but when it was a usual situation, any professor, any teacher from our university is able to take a key from a teaching room and to take a computer and to organize lecture for students. And usually all relationships connected with authority are assigned through some written procedures, some rules, and job description. And you have to understand that everybody, even top management, has some limits of authority. And the next very important term is power. Power is ability to act. So it could be the situation that someone can have power without having the authority. Theoretically, is it possible for me, not for me, okay, for any professor to take a key from a teaching room and to organize a party, to bring some alcohol drinks, etc., to bring some music? Theoretically, yes. But it's not possible because I'm not allowed to do it. But theoretically, I can do it. Here is another example. For example, treasurer has the right to sign checks. Thereafter, theoretically, he has power to steal some money from the firm's account. And to make it more obvious, this difference authority is connected with what the person can, has the right to do, and power, what he or she really can do. And at the end of our short lecture, I'd like to discover some main pitfalls of effective delegations, and we'll analyze this process from both sides, from the manager and from the employee, from subordinate. Okay. The first problem is the problem and I can do it better. You know, in any organization, usually managers have bigger IQ level compared with subordinates. So theoretically, it means that if we are speaking about some particular tasks, it will be performed, it could be performed better by some manager, but you know, it's not possible for a manager to do everything in his department, in his unit or her unit. Uh, he or she has to delegate. So please don't do it. Don't do this mistake in future. So if you can think, you can feel that you will do this task better, nevertheless, you have to delegate it. But you can teach your subordinates, you can support your subordinates, etc. So in future, the gap between you and subordinates will be lower. Lack of ability to direct, the second one. You know, it is very difficult for somebody to say, okay, you must do it. As for me, it is very difficult. So when I was a manager, I used to say, okay, I'm kindly asking you to do it, please do it, something like that. But if the subordinate is smart enough, clever enough, he or she can think, okay, so it is an order, even if it is formulated in polite form. Lack of confidence in subordinates, the third one. It is connected with the first. It means that I do not believe that my subordinate can do it. And the fourth is connected to the previous one, aversion to risk. As far as the manager is responsible for everything, in the organization, he or she could be afraid about some fail. So he or she, this manager, can think that he or she can perform these task, compare the situation of delegating it to another person. But some problems can be seen not only way from manager to subordinate, but vice versa. It means that in some cases, subordinates don't want to be delegated. And usually the main problems are connected with the following. The first, the subordinate finds it easier to ask the boss what to do rather than figure out the problem. It means usually it is difficult to take some responsibility. It is better to say, okay, so please think what you should do and what I should do, and if any mistake, it will be your mistake. It is very bad position. Okay, second, the subordinate fears criticism for mistakes. It's quite normal situation to make a mistake, and a clever manager must explain to all the subordinates that, okay, it is possible situation. The third, the subordinate lacks of the information and resources needed to do the job successfully. Sometimes the task is delegated, but the authority is not delegated. And in this very situation, the subordinate say, okay, you asked me to print some contract, but I don't have the printer, so what should I do? I will not pay my own money. The fourth, the subordinate already has or believes he or she has more work than he or she can do. We will discuss it. We will discuss it during motivating function of management. But I'd like to say that in some cases, subordinates are comparing their obligations with obligations of another staff, and if they think that their obligation are bigger, so they will not do it. The fifth, subordinate lacks of self-confidence. It is a very big problem. It is not connected with the first pitfall because the first is like cheating, and the fifth is like some problems in nature. And the sixth, if subordinate is not offered with any positive incentive or reward, so he will do nothing. So it is like a small bridge to our next lecture. So if you say to your subordinate, okay, you should do this, it must be some reward or some positive or negative incentive after this order. Thank you for listening. See you.